UVU in Orem has had an active shooter at the Charlie Kirk event. We're getting several calls. We're trying to get more information.
It was a single fatal shot. A bullet that would not only take the life of one of America's most prominent MAGA figures,
apparently there's been a shooting,
but send political shockwaves through a divided country already tearing out in two opposite directions. Charlie Kirk was a 31-year-old political activist, known for airing his deeply conservative and sometimes controversial views on college campuses, encouraging liberal students to take him on. Utah Valley University was meant to be the first stop on his American comeback tour, but it ended in tragedy.
Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
This image appears to show a shooter dressed all in black fleeing the scene, a shooter who is still at large. Police later released these two images as a person of interest they're looking for. Witnesses spoke of their shock.
So I turned around, and like 10 to 20 seconds later, after I got done talking to Charlie, I saw that he was shot in the neck and that he was squirting blood everywhere.
And then I saw all the crowd running as fast as they could, and I was worried about people trampling each other. And I saw two college-age girls, one was having a panic attack.
Hundreds of students were gathered in an outdoor auditorium in a central part of the campus. Charlie Kirk was addressing them and taking questions from this gazebo. The shot appears to have been fired from this roof. UVU student Andrew Kang filmed Kirk arriving to chants. He says the atmosphere was charged between supporters and protesters on a nearby balcony. And then everything changed.
Yeah, there was a loud and clear shot, one shot. It just goes bang, and a lot of us were obviously confused. The whole crowd crouched down, and in my head I was only thinking, we gotta get out of here. So I started yelling to my friends, we gotta go, we gotta go.
We gotta go, we gotta go, yeah, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go. Go, go, go.
Andrew, who left his bag and car keys as he ran, describes himself as politically moderate, disagreeing with Kirk but welcoming debate. He and his friends are struggling to come to terms with what happened.
Oh my God!
Just traumatized. Yeah, there were just lost for words of what happened. Yeah, and I just hope everybody's doing okay, and hopefully eventually the time will resolve things.
Today, Utah woke up to the horror of what had unfolded. The debris discarded as students fled in panic and chaos, still scattered across what is a live crime scene. President Trump described it as a dark moment for America, describing Kirk as a martyr in a political schism.
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now.
Charlie Kirk placed himself on the front line of America's culture wars at just 18. His group, Turning Point USA, took MAGA values into schools and colleges before the movement had even been named. He was not afraid of being provocative.
We need more people in jail. We do not have enough people in prison in America.
And because of his mobilization of young people last year, he was seen as a key architect of Donald Trump's victory.
Put Donald Trump back in the White House where he belongs. God bless you guys. Thank you so much.
This is a dark day for our state. It's a tragic day for our nation. And I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination. To whoever did this, we will find you. We will try you. And we will hold you accountable to the furthest extent of the law. And I just want to remind people that we still have the death penalty here in the state of Utah.
Donald Trump blames hate propagated by what he calls the radical left for what happened here yesterday. But his critics think that his own rhetoric also fuels hate. Data suggests that America is more divided than ever before, and unquestionably, its history of political violence runs both ways. In what is known locally as Utah's Happy Valley, there was despair and fear today. Police said they had found a high-powered bolt-action rifle that was used in the killing, the imprints of a forearm, a palm and a shoe. They have yet to find the killer, but many, including the President of the United States, seems sure of the motive. I'm standing just over 100 metres from where Charlie Kirk was killed yesterday. The FBI are offering $100,000 for any information that could lead to an arrest of his killer. We've just been told that a press conference due soon has been delayed, apparently because of rapid developments in this case. Meanwhile, his close friend and ally Donald Trump has awarded Kirk with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and J.D. Vance, the vice president, has arrived here in Utah with his wife Usha, ready to take Kirk's casket back to his home of Arizona. We've also heard tributes from across the aisle from former presidents Biden and Obama, and the Republican governor of Utah standing here yesterday was very clear that this political violence is going in both directions, speaking about attacks in both Minnesota and Pennsylvania that were aimed at Democratic colleagues. And right now here among the students, still much shock and sadness.
Anushka, live for us in Utah. Thank you very much indeed. Well, today is also the day that America commemorates the terror and the tragedy of 9/11. But increasingly, it is the spectre of domestic terror and violence that haunts a nation whose history is periodically convulsed by political violence, as well as, of course, a culture of gun ownership. The killing of Charlie Kirk has triggered an outpouring of raw grief, especially from his friends on the right.
I weep for Charlie's family, and I weep for my country today. Most of all, I weep for Charlie.
But this is grief and politics. Charlie Kirk was woven into the very fabric of America as we now know it, bitterly and tribally divided. As Donald Trump himself put it, Kirk was one of the three people that got him elected. A college dropout who not only radicalized the anti-woke movement, but actually got them out to vote.
This election is a decision between preserving America as we know it and eliminating everything that we love.
Orator, influencer and organizer, he embodied free speech to his supporters and the new counterculture on the right. This enchanted young people, especially men, searching for someone like them to look up to. Charlie Kirk filled that vacuum in the Biden era. Stoic and stubbornly loyal, Charlie Kirk was no moderate. He stuck with Trump after the January the 6th Capitol attacks. A fierce protector of the 340 million weapons now in private American ownership, even though he became the victim of one. We know that America has a deep and troubled history of political violence.
Take a look at what happened.
Trump wasted no time in blaming Kirk's murder on the radical left, portraying Kirk a proxy martyr for his own cause. A Reagan-loving Chicago schoolboy became a millionaire MAGA leader and Trump ally. It is hard to imagine that in this fractious landscape, his tragic and violent death won't have some kind of reaction. Well, Patrick Ruffini is a Republican Party pollster and political strategist who's charted the transformation of the right in the US in a digital era. Patrick, it's great to have you on the programme. I mean, many in this country have never heard of Charlie Kirk, but he was huge in the United States, wasn't he? He was a household name. Tell us a little bit more about his influence.
Yeah, so I think Charlie Kirk laid the groundwork for what we saw in 2024, which was a realignment of younger voters into the Republican Party under Donald Trump. So back in, when Charlie Kirk started, the Republican Party was really nowhere with younger voters. They were losing younger voters by more than 2 to 1 during the Obama era. And President Trump came very close to winning them. And I think that was in large measure due to Charlie Kirk.
And I think Trump actually, credited him with this on several occasions. And Trump doesn't normally credit other people for his victory. So that was quite a big deal.
Indeed, and he was instrumental in the ground game that got many people out to vote, and particularly, but I think his influence extended beyond that. It extended to the culture, a sense and something that he embodied in his debates on college campuses, a resurgence of free speech, a resurgence of differences of opinion, particularly coming from the right, which particularly on college campuses felt oftentimes shut out of debate, completely silenced. And I think he led the fight back, ultimately losing his life.
And of course, a lot of people, who went to see Charlie Kirk, and even those who didn't, would have thought that some of that freedom of speech came with some comments that many people found, frankly, offensive. So I think he said that desegregation and the civil rights era was a mistake. At one stage, he was complimentary of Martin Luther King, and then later on he wasn't. I mean, did he relish these kind of comments? Was that part of his appeal to young America, not to be afraid to upset people?
Look, I mean, if you look at the full spectrum of figures on the right now, I think Charlie Kirk was no far right figure. I mean, if you certainly look at the resurgence of nationalist figures like Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, I would not call Charlie a moderate, but I think he was squarely within the mainstream of the right, and the mainstream of thought on the right. And that's, I think, why you're seeing the outpouring that we are seeing, right? Not only, I think, was he broadly representative of this movement that was very successful last year, but I think he was somebody who stood for values of free speech, free debate that really transcended party lines. And that's why you're seeing, the comments we saw from Presidents Biden, Obama, and all the previous presidents.
Right. But there are also people on social media on the left who weren't that upset about him dying, just as there might be people on social media on the right who would have the opposite reaction if someone on the left was killed. I just wonder whether in America something's gone horribly wrong, and you are now so bitterly divided that even the governor of Utah, who we saw earlier, was able to say yesterday, this country is broken and we will not come together again. That's quite unusual, isn't it?
I think it's certainly so very troubling that we have seen these instances of violence take on an increasingly political nature. I mean, from the Trump assassination attempt to the killing of or to the shootings of, and one fatal shooting of a Minnesota Democratic lawmaker earlier this year. And you're right. I think that right now it's very hard to conclude that things aren't broken, and they're broken for a lot of reasons. I think that there's obviously a toxic political culture, and particularly among young people. You have so many young people who have not learned how to differentiate between the toxic online culture and the real world. And just
very, very briefly, I mean, when Donald Trump says the radical left is to blame, before we even know who the perpetrator was and what the motives were, that's wrong as well, isn't it?
Well, look, I think all sorts of figures of the right are justifiably upset by what happened. I think we need to take a long, hard look at the rhetoric on both the left and the right. And I think it's unacceptable what's happening. I think it coincides with, a mental health crisis, particularly among young people. I think fueled by social media, fueled by technology. I don't think you can blame any one side for this.